Okay, I'm ready. Here we go. Hi, everybody. My name is Cat Kerr, and I'm a mixed media artist. And I am just super thrilled to be here with you today on Live with Prima as a Relics and Artifacts ambassador. Today's project, we're going to be working on this little assemblage, and it's called Birdman. And this one took a little time to kind of develop. And so before we actually get started on the class, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about how this piece came about and how I was inspired by it. And so as you can see, it's a small shadow box, but it really packs a punch. It's got a lot of stuff in there to look at. And it was really just, initially inspiring by this one little piece right here by Relics and Artifacts. And I'll be honest, I looked at this piece and I knew right away that I wanted to do something with it. And so I put it on my desk and I just kind of let it sit on the side until, it came calling to me. And it just ended up, sitting there for a couple of weeks. I could not figure out what to do with it. And I think one of the reasons why I was kind of caught up with trying to figure out what to do was because of the expression on his face. And when I'm creating, I normally like to create some sort of storyline to go along with my assemblages. And his story was just not coming. He just looked like he was really focused. He was doing something. I couldn't figure out what he was doing. And so I had to put it aside until it started speaking to me. And so when I finally received some of the Prima products, I just fell in love with all of the ephemera. And one of the pieces in the ephemera packs was this little bird. It's a very regal looking little die cut ephemera piece. And when I saw that bird, all of a sudden the story really started to come together because I realized that this guy was actually staring at the bird. And so the story developed from there. And I did write a little paragraph to go along with the assemblage, and I wanted to read it to you. I promise it's really short, but it just kind of gives you a little bit more background on, where this story came about. Okay, so I'm just reading all the comments. So cool. All right, so Birdman, confined to a cage of his own making, would sit and stare every day at the beautiful bird as she sings her lovely song. Until one day she turns to look at him. "Why are you in the cage?" she asks. "Don't you know that no cage can keep you from your destiny?" "But I'm afraid and I feel safe in the cage," whispered Birdman. "And so was I when I too lived in the cage," said the bird. "Until one day another bird told me that we all have seeds inside of us. Seeds that grow our true wings, and they will grow to be so big and so huge that no cage can hold us. It's going to happen no matter what. It's our destiny. And no bars, no walls, no words can stop us. So now that you know this, what are you going to do, Birdman?" And so that's the paragraph that goes along with this little assemblage piece. He's created a little cage for himself, and that cage is really just a metaphor for insecurities and self-doubt and things that I struggle with, and I know a lot of other artists that also struggle with that. Am I good enough? Am I doing the right thing? And I think the story of the bird is really inspiring because the bird is telling us that, we all go through that. We're all feeling the same thing, but it doesn't matter because eventually we're going to get to where we're supposed to be. And we can either start now or we can wait, but you're probably better off just going for it now. And so that's how the piece came about. It started with this one Relics and Artifacts piece, and then it just kind of grew from there. And I hope that you enjoyed the story. I just, I like to have a story along. It just helps with my creative flow, and I hope that you enjoyed that. So I guess we'll go ahead and start working on the project. I'm going to go ahead and move the camera down, but before I do, I just want to thank you again for joining me today. Thank all you guys. It's so great to see, all these names and everybody typing, and if you have any questions, I hope that I can answer them for you. But I think it's time we get to work. So I'm going to go ahead and move my camera. Sorry about that. That's my outside, which I'm sure you don't want to see. And I'm just going to secure my camera just so that it doesn't move around on me. And you might be able to see it a little bit better in the lighting now. He is definitely looking at the bird. He's in a little cage that he created. And, this is the piece that we're going to be creating today. And so I do want to tell you a little bit about how this workshop is going to go. I will be creating all of the embellishments first. I'm going to be working on the relics and artifacts pieces. I'm going to be working on the ephemera pieces and anything else that's going to go inside the box. I'm also going to be working on this ruler. And then I'm going to put those aside, and then I'll work on the shadow box itself. And once the shadow box is finished, then I'm going to go ahead and assemble it and glue all the pieces in and add any additional embellishments that I need to add. Okay, so I think we should go ahead and start. The first thing that I'm going to work on is, of course, my relics and artifacts. So I'm going to need a couple of things. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to spray a little bit of water onto a piece of wax paper here. I am using wax paper just because this stuff can get a little bit messy. And sorry, guys. And I don't really want it to get all over the place. So I'm just going to take some and I'm going to dip it into the water. Now this technique can definitely be done without the water, just using a dry brush, or it can be used with the water. And what I'm doing is I am just getting it into all of the little crevices, just because I want that, I want the artisan powder to highlight all of those little grooves. This stuff is really, really great. I mean, it's a little messy, but once it settles, it's wonderful. It doesn't move around on you. You might be thinking, wow, she's really adding a lot, but I am going to remove quite a bit of it. I'm going to just use a paper towel and just kind of remove most of it. And if that doesn't remove as much as I want, then I'll just go ahead and take a baby wipe. And that'll just help me to really kind of get all that excess off. This is a really vital step, because if I was to just go ahead and paint this with the paint that I'm going to use, it would really create a flat looking piece, and that's not what I want. I want my piece to have dimension. And so I need all of those grooves to be highlighted. I need them to stand out. And the artisan powder really, really helps to do that. I also happen to like pieces that that look old and weathered. And so this is another reason why I like using this stuff. You can remove as much of this as you want, totally up to you. It's your design aesthetic, whatever you want. Now there are two pieces in the little shadow box. There's this piece right here, and there's also the hand. But both pieces were made exactly the same. So when I do the hand, well, I'm actually not going to show you how I did the hand, because I'm doing it the same way that I'm doing it the face. So just so you're aware that they're both done exactly the same. Okay, and then once I've removed as much of that as I want, I'm going to go ahead and spray it with some Color Bloom gold foil. And I'm trying to see where I have the number. That number is 573805. And so I'm just going to go ahead and spray some on there. And I'm just going to let it dry. Okay, now while that is drying, I'm going to go ahead and work on this little ruler here. Now this is the ruler that goes on top here. And it's just a regular dollar store ruler. It was 12 inches. And what I did was I just removed the little, there was like a little metal groove on one side. I just kind of pulled it out and then I cut it to fit the size of the shadow box. And I used a jeweler saw to cut it, but you can use whatever you have. If you have a regular saw or if you have a rotary tool, you can use that to cut the ruler. And it's just something to embellish the top of the shadow box. Okay, so I'm going to put this piece aside for a second, and I'm going to go ahead and paint this ruler with the Opal Magic Blue Gold. I love this stuff. It just gives such a nice shimmer to the project and to all the pieces that I put it on, okay? And so I'm going to go ahead and paint it on, and then I'm going to just let it sit and dry. It just adds such a beautiful luster to the ruler. You know, it's sometimes when I look at the piece, it's almost hard to tell that it is a ruler, and I really like that as well. Now I am going to use the same exact paint on my other embellishments, on my Relics and Artifacts pieces. So I'm not going to close that all the way, but I'm just going to put that aside for a second and see if this face is dry here. All right, it's still not completely dry. Before I add my final step to it, I'm just going to add some heat to it. Now, if you want to create this project, you know, it's going to, this class is going to move pretty quickly just because I have already assembled a lot of the pieces. But you can go to my blog when you're done with the class, and I went ahead and I listed all the steps in the blog. So if if you like the project and you want to do it, you can go ahead and visit my blog. And I think Carrie's going to put the link on there, and you can see all of the steps. Okay. So now that this one's ready, I'm going to also add some paint to that one. Again, using the Opal Magic. And this just really goes, wow, this stuff really, really gives it that gold shimmery tone. And now that these have paint on them, I'll go ahead and put them aside. Okay. And I do have two pieces here that I've already done. So I have this face right here that's already dry, as well as the hand, okay? And they were both done the same exact way with the artisan powder, with the gold foil spray, and then finished off with the paint. And the reason I made these ahead of time is because there's one final step to these, and the pieces needed to be really, really dry in order for me to do it, and that was to stamp something on the pieces. If you can tell, They have some stamped words on them right there, or some stamped, these are little leaves. Okay, and so the pieces need to be really dry in order for me to do that. And I'm going to be using some Stays On ink. And I also used, it was the Garden Fable Cling Stamp, and it was number 579135. Okay. So now that these pieces are completely dry, I'm just going to go ahead and add some, it just is one additional element that will give your pieces a little bit more texture, okay? And this stamp is pretty cool because it has the words "the bird" on it, which I thought was pretty nice. So I just took a little bit of the ink and I'm just going to press it on, okay? If it doesn't go on all the way, it's okay. There we go. And I'm going to also use this one right over here, which is just some leaves, just a little bit. Again, it's just something that adds a little bit of texture to your pieces. Okay. And then I can put this stuff away. So now I have my ruler and I have my 2 Relics and Artifacts pieces. And I'm going to put those aside for now, just so that ruler can also dry. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the ephemera pieces. And that's these pieces right over here on the 2 corners. I'm also going to work on this one, and I'm going to assemble this one for you. Now, one of the reasons why these ephemera packs are just so cool, this is a Vintage Emporium, and this pack came with metal embellishments. I just thought that was the coolest thing because it's so nice that they include the paper as well as like little bottles and other little embellishments that you can add to your piece. And that's what this is right here. I ended up gluing it into place. All right, so I am going to be using that. And I do want to talk to you a little bit about how I assemble my ephemera packs. This is a rectangle, and so I wanted my ephemera pack on the outside to frame the outside of the shadow box. And so as you can see, the ephemera is going in that direction. And this one here is going straight down, and if I wanted to add some more, it would go in this direction. So I do keep that in mind as I'm assembling my little packs of ephemera. And I don't use anything fancy. I just use a stapler to get them together. Okay, so I just connected the 2 and I stapled it together. And then I stapled some additional ones, and those are going to go right there. And this pack right here, just to add a little bit more texture, this little tag here, I punched the hole and added a little bit of cording. That one's going to go right on the top. And this one is for the inside of the shadow box. This one has a little bit of height to it, and so I assembled this one and I put some foam dots on it so that it will be raised a little bit when I put it into the box, okay? And I also added just a little piece of cheesecloth, again, just to add more texture to it. That's something that I'm constantly thinking about. I definitely like pieces that have a lot of texture to them. Okay, and so now I'm going to go ahead and assemble the bird. And I do need this piece of ephemera that came in the bag, that came in the pack. I have the little birdie that I have already added some foam tags to them. I'm also going to use just a piece of corrugated cardstock, and also this piece of ephemera, if I can pick it up. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab my scissors and I'm going to just cut this piece in half. And the reason I'm doing that is that I can add some dimension to this piece. I can put a little piece of leaf there and a little piece of leaf there. Okay, and then I can staple them in place. But before I do that, I'm going to add some ink to my ephemera pieces. And I did this with all of the ephemera so that it all looks the same. Okay, you don't really need to add some to the bird just because there's not that much white sticking out, but I'm going to go ahead and go for it. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and just grab my stapler. And again, I cut this in half so that part of my leaf can be sticking out on this side. And then part of my leaf can be sticking out on the other side. And I think it just adds a nice base for that little bird. Okay, just like here. Okay. And so I'm going to go ahead and take my little bird, remove the adhesive on the back, the little foam adhesives, and I'm going to put it in place. Okay. So I have my ephemera pieces all ready to go. I have this one, and I'm also going to gather anything else that I might need for the inside of this area right over here. And so it's a very layered piece, which means that I just added a little bit of crochet trim to the bottom. And then I took some cardboard and I just kind of glued them together to give me some height. And I'm going to glue that inside the box. And then I also took some of this wonderful Prima wire thread, which is just wonderful. It comes in all sorts of colors, and I just think it's the coolest thing ever. The only thing is that you do have to be careful. It is pretty sharp, so you just have to treat it like regular wire. And so I just cut a long piece of it and made it into a circle. And then when I glue it into place, it's going to be just like that. So it has the height of the cardboard, but it also has the dimension with the crochet trim and the wire, and it just really pops out. Okay. So I have all of that. And now that I've let this ruler kind of dry a little bit, I'm just going to quickly add some ink to the edges. And I'm just using the StazOn. And I'm going to put that aside until I'm ready to use it. Okay, so we have our ephemera. We have our relics and artifacts pieces. I have the little embellishments. I have the metal embellishments. I already have the flowers cut out. They were from Avon Rose Pixie Glen, number 991210. And these are just lovely flowers because they have a little bit of a gold trim on them, and I just think they're really lovely. And what else? Let's see. We have everything that's going to go on the inside. I have some additional crochet trim. And so it looks like we have everything ready to go. And now it's time to work on the actual shadow box part. And I think we'll go ahead and get started on that. Now I did go ahead and paint the shadow box just so you didn't have to see that. I also went ahead and I added the cardstock to the box, to the back and to the sides. And the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to work on the background. And today I'm using Vintage Emporium's collection. And the papers in this collection are just absolutely wonderful. This was the cardstock that I originally fell in love with. It had this beautiful bird design on it, and I wanted to make sure that the bird would be sticking out, just the bird text would be sticking out. So what I did was I just cut the cardstock to fit inside. And then I also took some of the additional cardstock from the pack, and I'm going to glue it down with a tape runner. But before I do that, I'm just going to add a little bit more ink to my edges. Now, can I use just one cardstock? Absolutely. It's just really just adding texture. Every layer of texture is going to add dimension to your piece. And so that's something that you really, you want to keep in mind because you don't want your piece to look flat. So, you really want to, I don't want to say go overboard, but you want to make sure that there's interest in your pieces. And I'm just going to add some to this. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at your questions. Wonder if you could spray neutral colored wire, the color you'd like. Actually, I have done that. I have sprayed, I've spray painted wire to match my projects. So yes, absolutely you can do that. But I'll be honest with you, this particular wire comes in so many different colors, and it's like a candy store with so many colors that are available. Sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and just use a tape runner. I'm going to attach this cardstock that I already cut to size. And I'm also going to go ahead and place it inside my shadow box. Now, one of the reasons why I painted the shadow box black with a spray paint was, again, to add dimension. Okay. And I like that it really kind of, the black draws the eye in. And so there was no need for me to put any paper on the inside because the black really draws that eye in. So the next thing we're going to do to that background is we're going to use some of the Christine Adolph adhesive rub-ons. And these are just absolutely wonderful. They come in all sorts of designs. There are letters, there are words, there are different designs that you could use. Today I'm using, which one am I using? Adhesive Rub-On 971281. And that one came with a bunch of like little designs, and the rub-on is just adhesive. So once you rub it on, you're able to add additional things to it like foil, glitter, mica powders, and I wanted to add it to the background because I just thought, again, it would add some interest. And so I am going to go ahead and just peel it away. If I can peel the back off. And I am keeping in mind where my elements are going to be. So I do want to be able to see this foil because it's going to add that dimension. So I'm actually going to place it in this area right over here. And I'll probably place it in some other areas as well. So I'm just going to use a little popsicle stick. It doesn't matter if I get all of the rub-on or not. But I do have to get it out. Let's see. Okay, and so I'm going to take some of this copper foil And I'm just going to press it on. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want that metallic look to pop out. I'm going to cut another piece. And let's see, I guess maybe I'll put some over here. Again, keeping in mind where my pieces are going to go, where my embellishments are going to go. I'm struggling to get this up here. It's because I'm standing up. I normally work standing up, so sometimes that doesn't work out, but I normally work standing up, so it's a little awkward to peel that off. Okay, and I think I'm going to put it in one more location. And I'm going to put it right over here. And I picked that because I'm going to have a little bit showing right there, and so I kind of want to see it there as well. This stuff is so great, and not only the designs, but the color of the foils that are also available in these beautiful blues and all these really cool colors. And so I really love this stuff. Okay. So I've added some rub-ons. And one of the last things that I'm going to do to that background is I'm going to add some splattered paint. And the reason I do that is just, again, for some additional texture. And I'm just going to take a little bit of black paint, water it down a little bit. And I'm just going to put it on there and let it dry. Okay, and so that is pretty much the background. Again, you can just use one piece of cardstock if you like, but just keep in mind the more texture, the more interesting your piece is going to be. So while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and finish up the sides. Okay, and I used the same cardstock, and I also embellished it with some Dresden. So I just cut these strips down to size, and I'm going to use the tape runner to adhere it, and then I'm going to add this Dresden on top of it, and that just really brings it up a notch. Okay, so let's add some of that. The adhesives that I used in this project were primarily the tape runner, and I'm going to be using the glue stick in just a little bit. And I'm just going to add a little bit of tape to this. Now, this is not permanently going to stay in place. And so what I normally do when I'm done with an assemblage is I will go ahead and seal the entire piece with either a Mod Podge or some sort of sealant, okay? And I do that because there are a lot of little elements that can come undone, and I don't want to see my pieces fall apart like that. You know, for examples, the letter text, the Dresden. I will go ahead and, you know, once the shadow box is finished, if I have the time, I'll go ahead and add the sealant on it, and that really helps to protect it. Now I've already gone ahead and attached the Dresden to these two pieces. Oh, I actually should have done this the other way around. I should have put my sides on first and then this one, and that's going to bother me. So I'm going to go ahead and lift it and then place it down again. Okay. Same thing with this one. And after I'm done adding these, I will go ahead and come back with that ink again and just um, add some ink to the paper. I have a little piece of Dresden sticking out here, so I'm just going to trim that off. And I'm going to take that ink. Any ink that you have available is perfectly fine. I'm using Distress Ink Vintage Photo just because it has, again, that kind of old look to it. And I really want all the paper to be the same tone. So I want the ink on all of the embellishments, all of the ephemera, all the paper. All right, now before I add my top ruler, I'm going to go ahead and place everything on the inside just so that the ruler is not, in the way. Okay, so I'm going to leave that ruler for last. Okay, so I'm going to get all of my ephemera back, all of my little embellishments. And did I add ink to the sides? I forgot to add ink to the sides of the shadow box and the back. As long as you're using the same ink in the entire project, it'll give it one uniformed look. And again, when I'm done, I normally go back and I seal the entire piece, just so nothing comes undone. Okay, thank you guys so much. I'm reading your comments. Okay. So I am gathering, this part is done for now. I'm going to go ahead and start layering all of my good little embellishments that I have here on the side. And let me just move this stuff out of the way. All right, and so as you can see, he's looking over at the bird here. So I do want to make sure that my placement is somewhat accurate, that he's kind of looking at the bird. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and add that piece first, just so it'll give me an idea of where to place the bird. I'm not going to glue this in right now. I'm just going to kind of test it out, see where everything's going to be placed here. Okay, I want that bird text to kind of stick out a little bit. And I am working on the inside of the box first. I don't want to go ahead and add my outside ephemera because it's going to make it a little awkward to get everything on the inside done. So I'm working on the inside and working my way out. Okay, and as you can see, this guy has a little cage around him. And again, I used this wire thread, which I absolutely love. And I'm just going to take a whole piece of it, using a wire cutter to cut it. And again, just be really careful because these edges can be a little sharp. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a circle big enough to hold my little face there. All right, and so I'm going to go around a couple of times, creating a coil. So I really want to make sure that that face is going to fit in there, and it will. Okay. So I think I cut too much wire. I'm just going to trim off a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those two ends and I'm just going to fold them. And this is the same exact way that I made this wire right here. Okay, I just made a circle of a couple of pieces of wire wrapped around. And then I just twisted the little end tails. Okay, and so I'm left with these little wires here that are kind of, you know, you can kind of manipulate them and bring them up a little bit. First, I'm going to make sure that it fits my little face there. Okay, good. Move this one out of the way for a sec. And then I'm going to go ahead and just manipulate the little wires. Again, being mindful of the sharpness of those little wire tails. I'm not looking for anything that's perfect. It's really just something that's going to encage him. It's going to cage him in. And so that's exactly what I want. I'm going to just get rid of all of this little excess here on the ends. And I just want to shape it so that it's interesting. Okay, and there's his little cage. And so I'm going to first go ahead and glue him into place. I'm using a hot glue gun. You can use any kind of adhesive that you have. And I'm also going to add some hot glue to the sides, and that's how I'm going to put this in place. Now, before I do that, I'm just going to add some micro beads because I also embellish the sides right here with micro beads just to give it a little bit of interest. I'm just making sure that this cage is doing good. Okay. And so I'm just going to add a little bit of hot glue. This stuff is really hot. It's been sitting here. And I'm just using a popsicle stick to kind of keep it in place. And I'm just going to drizzle on some of the little beads. I'm not worried about the excess. I'll just take them out. Okay. And so I have this little paper plate here I'm going to use to capture all my little beads. And I have some strings here from the hot glue. Oh boy. Okay. Now that it's glued into place, I can really maneuver this wire as much as I want, you know, to really kind of encase that, that face in there if I want to, okay? I'm just getting rid of all these little strings here, hot glue gun strings. And the next thing I'm going to add is I'm going to start adding the ephemera. So I'm going to add this piece and this piece right here. But I'm going to go ahead and start with the crochet trim. Again, I'm just using some hot glue gun, but you can use whatever you have. And then I'm going to glue in that piece of cardboard just for height. And I'm just testing this now. Where is this going to rest here? I'm moving that over just a little bit so that I have enough room to put my little piece of wire. And I don't really need a lot. I just need some to kind of keep it in place there. And then the last thing is I'm going to glue this one down. Just keeping in mind where his eyes are so that I know that he's looking at the bird. Looks good. Okay. And so I'm also going to add this little piece right here. I have like hot glue gun strands all over the place. And so I'm just going to remove, let's see here. Okay, so I guess Julianne wants to know if I wrote the paragraph to add it to the piece. Thanks, Carrie. Oh, isn't that funny? My phone just went dead. You can totally do that. I think that's what the question said. You can totally do that. Oh, let me just move this over just a little bit because I want to make sure that I can see that bird right there. But yeah, I mean, there are a couple of pieces that I've made in which I've added text to the back of the piece. And again, it's just one of those things where I think that, you know, not only do you find it interesting as you're making it, it's also interesting to the person that's either going to purchase it or admire it or whatever. And so, you know, being able to add that story to your piece somewhere is a phenomenal idea. I think that that's a really good idea. Okay. So these pieces are all in, and now I'm going to go ahead and just finish up this piece right over here, which includes the little hand that I made with the stamped image, and also this piece right over here. So I'm going to use the glue gun again. This stuff is hot. And I just want to make sure that I get it in the right spot so that it's together there. Okay. Looks good. And I'm going to go ahead and add some flowers. It really softens the piece. So I'm going to go ahead and just add a little bit more glue. And I'm just going to add my embellishments before they dry on me. There we go. And on this one, I kind of brought it up just a little bit. And I also added something to this one called coconut fibers, which I didn't add to this, but I still can. And coconut fibers, I can't live without this stuff. This is something that you buy at Home Depot, Lowe's. And it's one of those coconut planters. It comes in a shape, it's like a planter. And so what I do is I just take it apart, and all of these little fibers I feel just add so much interest to the piece. And so I was supposed to put it right there, but I didn't. But you know what? That's okay. I'm just going to take a little bit and I'm going to put some on the bottom here. And it just really helps again to give it some dimension. Okay. Now, it looks like I have everything in. Everything is not falling out, which is a good thing. So I'm going to go ahead and add the ephemera to the outside. Okay. Now, before I add this piece, I do have to glue in my ruler. And I'm gluing it enough so that it's not completely covering the inside of the shadow box. Okay. So I'm just making sure that it's even. It's not down so much. It's just enough to kind of give it a little bit of a lip. Okay, and now I can go ahead and add these embellishments. Now this one did have a little foam adhesive on the bottom of it because the ruler gave it a little bit of height. And so I wanted to make sure that it was level. And as soon as I start putting that ephemera on, it really starts to add, the dimension. And I can also go in and add a little bit of crochet trim. And while it's hot, I can add some micro beads. So that it sticks to the hot glue there. Ouch, that was hot. All these little fibers. I'm probably going to add some more glue to the back of that. And then I'll go ahead and add this bottom piece right here. And I'm just going with the curve of that shadow box. All right, so I am just going to add a little bit more glue to the back of this ruler here, just so that that trim has something to adhere to. There we go. And it looks like everything is falling into place. Let's see. The box, it's actually a Relics and Artifacts wooden tray set, and it's number 941772. And what's really cool about the box is that it comes in different sizes, so you can really kind of go to town with the different sizes. They come in rectangles and they also come in squares, so it's a wonderful way to make these shadow boxes. All right, so one of the final things that we're going to do is we're going to add our text, and right up there. And we're also going to add our little final touches, which is either if I wanted to add some more micro beads, or I also added some adhesive rhinestones. Again, just to give it a little bit more bling, I added some here and here, and just to the ephemera as well. And so these are all just kind of the final touches. And so for the letters, I used one of the Tiny Alpha sticker engravers, number 563240. And I happen to really like this because I love using black text. Now, the letters were a little large, and so I had to cut them down a little bit. And I'm just going to grab my scissors. And I'm just going to cut them down to fit. You don't have to cut them down. I mean, it's really up to you. I just kind of prefer that they are a certain size, all right? And so in order for them to really kind of stay on there, again, I'm just going to add a little bit of the tacky, the tape runner. And let's see if I can get the rest of my letters here without dropping them all over. I kind of like that they that they're all kind of wonky. The shapes are all wonky. I cut them. I wasn't like really paying attention when I cut them, so So they're not perfectly even, and I like that. Okay, I can't find my A, so I need another A. And I think that we are going to be just about done. Oh my gosh, I am on time here. Okay, and that's the finished piece. I just wanted to also share with you that I'm a little compulsive when it comes to leftover pieces, and so I had an additional piece of ruler left, and so I ended up making this magnet. And this magnet uses all of the embellishments that I just used the same exact way. I painted the relics and artifacts the same exact way. Let me see if you guys can see it. And it's got some magnets on the back. Okay, I used the same ephemera, the same flowers, the same trim. The only thing that I didn't use that's not on the material list is the Dresden wings, which can also be found on the site. And so I just had this little piece of leftover ruler and I added the trim to the bottom and I just made an extra little piece because I wanted to use that piece of ruler up. And so that's it for the piece, and that's it for my Birdman assemblage. And I just wanted to let you know that if you do stop by my blog, again, you're going to see all of the steps. I did write them down for you so that you have them. And I'm also going to be giving these two pieces away in a giveaway. And so if you go to my blog, just leave me a comment and let me know how I did in the class. If I talk too much or if I talk too fast, it'd really be helpful. And just leave me a comment. And on Friday, I'm going to go ahead and pick a winner for somebody to pick, for somebody to win this Birdman assemblage. And I'm also going to give away this magnet. Okay, so that's kind of it, guys. Thank you so much for visiting me today here in Central Florida and hanging out with me as I made this little assemblage. And I really, really hope that you enjoyed the class and that you're inspired to make one. And if you do, I would just really love it if you shared some pictures with me. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much. Amazing project. Wow. Okay. And you love the magnet. You know what? I love the magnet too. I hate having leftover pieces. And I thought, you know what? I am totally going to use that ruler and do something with it. So, again, if you guys want to win it, just make sure you stop by the blog and I'll be giving those two pieces away. And thank you so much, guys, for everything. Okay. I think that's it. Let's see. Thank you, guys. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I follow the instructions. Right, Carrie? Okay. Bye, guys. Thank you so much.